Not Teresa, they're
Yeah.
recorded. Okay, so that pretty much acts as a record, so you get off the hook a little bit. I guess we'll call it to order. With respect to the Open Public Meetings Act statement, in accordance with the provisions of the Open Public Meetings Act, public meetings may be held in person or by means of communication equipment to include live streaming services and other online meeting platforms pursuant to NJSA 10:4-8B. Due to COVID-19 situation, the Borough of Fairhaven's municipal facilities are closed to the public. This meeting is being presented through the Zoom meeting platform and being broadcast from Borough Hall, 748 River Road, Fairhaven, New Jersey. Public participation for this Preservation Commission meeting of December 29th, 2020 is available by call and phone number or through web conference, otherwise known as Zoom. Members of the public will be on mute until the portion of the public questions or comments, which will be announced. At the time, the public has the opportunity to question or comment by phone or through Zoom by the quote, raise hand, close quote button, and will be called upon at the appropriate time. Notice of this meeting was included in the schedule of meetings sent to the Asbury Park Press, the Two River Times, the Hub, and the Star Ledger on January 30th, 2020, posted on the Borough website, the bulletin board in the municipal building, and has remained continuously posted as required under the statute.
Chairman, I just want to correct you on the date. You had read that it was December 15th meeting. It's actually the January 26th meeting.
Did I say? Oh, I probably was using the same.
You're reading an old.
Yes, my apologies. January 26th. So can we get a roll call, Stevie?
Stevie, you're on mute.
Steve.
Should be on your bottom left. There's a little microphone. Okay, we lost her. She's gonna.
She's connecting to the audio right now.
Hey, Art, do you hear me?
Can you hear me?
I do.
Yes.
Okay, so Jay Anderson, Luba Caruso, Pat Drummond, Michelle Mandia,
Here.
Hillary Mullen,
Here.
Art Pavlik,
Here.
Joe Sluter,
Here.
and Stevie Thompson here.
Okay, so we do have a quorum, so we're ready to proceed by way of old business. And after we take the applications, we'll talk about this issue with regard to Bicentennial Hall, which is on for a meeting tomorrow. With regard to new business, we have two applications, the first of which is 32 De Normandy Avenue, Block 50, Lot 4. It's Nathaniel Matthews and Sarah Romeo. The work proposed as contained in the application is addition of a new second story to an existing one-story single-family dwelling with the addition of 2 new bedrooms and 2 new bathrooms, along with exterior renovation and a 140 square foot garden shed. The submissions that we have include a set of elevations and plans that is titled title sheet, site plan and shed, dated January 18th, 2021, sheet number A1, sheet number A2, and sheet number A3 from Jonathan Wolf Architecture and Design in West Allenhurst, along with the application. So obviously anything else, and just so you know, I did pick up the hard copy of that. So all of the members should have copies of the electronic submission, and I do have in my possession the hard copy of the materials that were submitted. So we'll hear you on the application.
You're on mute, Mr. Wolf. You still can't hear you, Mr. Wolf. You have to unmute yourself.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you very much for hearing our application this evening. My name is Jonathan Wolf of Jonathan Wolf Architecture and Design of West Allenhurst, New Jersey. And I've been working with Sarah and Nate from 32 De Normandy Avenue on the renovation of their existing home. and the expansion of the second floor to include 2 new bedrooms and bathrooms, 2 new bathrooms as well. And we are pleased to be presenting those plans to you this evening. We feel strongly that what we're proposing is an improvement, a great improvement on an existing home, to bring it, I think, much more into the character of the existing neighborhood. And we hope that you'll look favorably on our application.
Okay, you want to tell us a little bit in specific what the plan is?
Sure. So we have the existing house is it's 1 story. It's really 1.5 stories. So it's 1 story with an attic space. And the plan is really to expand the original portion of the house, which is oriented more to the front of the lot. There was subsequent to the original mass of the house, there was an addition, a 1-story addition done off the back. I believe it was in the 90s. Is that right, Nate and Sarah?
Yeah,
Some time ago. We would propose expanding the attic story of the main portion of the house, and that would be occupied by the new bathrooms and the new bedrooms. And we would propose leaving the existing 1-story addition off of the rear, which currently houses the kitchen and as well as a bedroom and bathroom. We would propose the renovation of that while leaving it as is, the existing footprint as is, as well as the 1-story condition off of the back. So it's really just an expansion of that existing attic space to increase the head height to allow for the new living space to take place there.
And just,
So-
I didn't see any photographs of the existing structure. I'm unsure whether everybody from the commission knows what house this is. It's the last house on Denormity as you're approaching the river on the right, just before the public park. Is that correct?
no,
I think that's not correct. Nate, do you want
Oh,
to?
no. Okay, I'm sorry.
Oh, no, that's fine. Go
It's-
ahead, Nate.
Okay. I'm mistaken. I thought that this, okay, then we have heard that, yeah, I'm remembering
what,
this
Art,
now. We have
Yeah.
heard this application.
Mr. Public, I just want to be sure. I know you have the right drawings based on your description of the sheets. I do have on my January 18th set, on that A2 sheet, there's a number of photos of the various elevations of the house. I'm not sure.
Yeah, it's in the email, Art.
Yep, my mistake. I disregard that because I was confusing with another application and
Not at all.
I'm
I
seeing the
just
photos.
that
I
makes
was thinking
sense.
that those were exemplar photos of a different house, but yes, I'm okay. Very good. Never
So
mind
then
that.
if I may direct you then to those photos, board members, I don't know if you've had an opportunity to see them. But the house that is there now is a fairly modest 1-story, 1.5 story. I don't know that I could even assign sort of a type to it stylistically, but it's there's some photos to give you an idea. I'm sure you may very well know the house.
Yes, we do. And we have actually heard application on that, or I know that we've had the applicants in on an informal basis, at least, to discuss a lot of these things already.
yeah, and we sort of in the past year had to reassess the whole project and decided to go in this direction rather than a new construction. So it's sort of back to the drawing board, and here we are again.
Okay.
So it's slightly different perhaps than was originally proposed. Rather than new construction, we were clearly proposing the expansion of the existing. And so again, I mean, just from a constructability perspective, there is an existing knee wall in the attic, about 3.5 feet tall, that we would simply extend and make higher in order to simply lift. It's not the existing roof, but the pitch would remain, well, we would to lift the roof line and allow for that living space. We've made, you know, an effort to stay within, you know, the local aesthetic, the local historical style of Fairhaven. We have our elevations, and we're, you know, both Nate and Sarah are very, you know, interested in the local historical vernacular. And that was always important to them from the moment they contacted me. And we've tried to modify this existing house into something, you know, that maybe looks like it's been there for longer, you know, for a bit longer. So that's the intention. And yeah.
I do appreciate on sheet A3 that you gave pretty specific detail in terms of, you know, window types, roof type, materials being utilized. One of the things I may have overlooked, but in terms of the front porch decking, what is the proposed material for that?
I'm just seeing if I've called out a material here on the composite treads. I would propose, and we can talk to Nate about this, Nate and Sarah, we have discussed using a composite material for the decking, all decking and treads, something like a Trex product.
Yeah, I actually think the builder we're using that we've been talking to, he also is from a cost perspective, like the ePay, you know, the hardwood that our people are using these days are pretty competitive to the Trex. So I don't think we've made a decision about it one way or the other.
Would it be an ePay, or maybe are you looking to do like a tongue and groove, or what is it that you're looking to do as far as the material?
Right. It would be a contiguous decking rather than with like a 1/4 inch spacing or anything like that.
Mm-hmm.
I only bring that up because since we don't know the material, and there's a lot of different types of products out there. If you're indicating that an ePay or a mahogany or some type of a hardwood, you know what you get with that, as opposed to the different types of products. So I don't know, you know, as part of, if you want to indicate that that would be the material that you use for the decking on the front porch, because it's something that since that's something that's very visible from the street, although there's a slight elevation, it's probably something that has to be addressed. That's not one of the few things. I think it's very comprehensive, the plan, but one of the things that's not included in at least A3.
Yeah, I think we would certainly commit to that it would look like a solid piece of wood, wood finished. And, you know, I think it's just hard to say. I know, like, just framing, you know, ash or pine right now is like twice what it cost last year because of COVID and stuff. So, you know, I wouldn't say like, yes, it's mahogany or yes, it's ePay specifically yet, but certainly something that would look from the street like a solid hardwood deck.
So you're saying a hardwood or a simulated wood product?
Yes.
But no specifics as far as the type of simulated wood product.
No,
I mean, we could go, you know, if the commission would look favorably on something like a TimberTech product, you know, I think that would be sort of my first proposal. Now we can discuss this more if Nate and Sarah, if you want to do a hardwood, we can propose that certainly.
And just understand what the reason why I'm bringing this up is because it's unsettled. And so there's a variety of different products out there. If you say that it's going to be hardwood, you kind of know what you're getting because there's only certain types of application for that. But just to leave it a question mark for something that's right in the front of the house is a little bit more is an issue for us that really can't be left unresolved. In terms of specific types of simulated wood, obviously the hardy board and some of the other things that are mentioned in the plan, clearly we have in the past not had a problem with it, and we wouldn't now. Maybe Joe Schluter has some insight as to particular products, and if we can agree on a particular product or a family of products, that would probably get us over the hump on that issue.
Okay.
As
I mean,
far
for
as
me, it's, you know, up to you, Nate and Sarah, as the owners, if that's something you feel like you'd want to commit to tonight. But we can just, you know, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a small enough square footage that even our cost per square foot it's not going to hurt too much one way or the other. and say we could commit to it being a wood deck.
Sure, sure. We do lots of work in cedar and hardwoods, and I think it's beautiful. I prefer it in a lot of ways, but the lifespan of a timber tech or a AZEC product it's hard to compete with that.
Yeah.
But we can either take that offline or we can see how the discussion unfolds.
Yeah, I mean, I'd say we could say I think we could commit to it being a wood, an actual wood.
Some type of hardwood, and
Yeah,
obviously whatever type of material you utilize on that.
And it's something that if we're moving along in construction and it's just absolutely an issue, we can always, I guess, come back. But I don't think it would be.
Terrific. So then we'll focus on speccing a hardwood for that for the decking there. I mean, could we tentatively commit to whether it's mahogany or cedar or ipe?
I don't know that you need to do that, and I don't want to put you in a position where you feel like you have to. I know ipe is very cost prohibitive. I don't, at least myself, I wouldn't want to have you commit to that. I'll give you the flexibility clearly,
Okay.
or leave that open for that reason.
Super.
I don't know whether anybody else has any other thoughts on it.
Art, can I ask a question?
Sure.
What's the orientation of the decking going to be?
I think
Tradition,
yes, not I think
traditionally-
we've drawn it. It would be horizontal in the long direction, so it would orient sort of perpendicular to the long direction of the house.
okay, so that's not the true way that traditional porches are laid.
Okay,
Um,
short direction.
Short direction, running,
Okay.
from the house out is the
Okay.
traditional way that porches are done. And being in the historic district, I would definitely like to see the porch done that way. And that
Right,
limits
okay.
your choices when you're talking about a timber tech, which is like a 5/4 by 6 material. That's more for decks and not for porches.
Okay,
I know AZEC makes AZEC porch,
okay,
and I would rely on the rest of the group to vote on that. But I would prefer to see it run traditionally, so it looks like a traditional porch.
okay. Thank you for that note. I think we would be absolutely open to orienting it out.
Not a problem at all.
And the windows, I don't know that there's a detail that's spec for all of them in terms of the will they be simulated divided light windows?
We haven't picked out a window manufacturer or actual spec as yet. But yeah, typically we would spec something along the lines of an Anderson 400 series with a simulated divided light.
Okay.
Yeah. And we'd be happy to provide those specs when we get a little bit further with our contractor.
And I don't know that you need to spec out the specific window, but I think just a proviso, and Joe step in on this with me as well, in terms of a simulated divided light, variety of different products out there, as long as it's not just like a pop-in grill, which it certainly doesn't seem like something that you're even contemplating. But again, it's a question mark, and there are a lot of windows even facing the street, so that has to be addressed, and it would probably be some type of a condition. So I assume that we could get a condition, and Joe, maybe you want to correct the language on that in terms of some type of simulated divided light windows.
I think what Art's going at is a true simulated divided light window will have the mullion exterior on the glass as well as interior on the glass, not necessarily having it break through the glass, but having both of them with a spacer bar in the middle.
Right, right. Yeah. That's clear. It would be at least that condition. I don't think we're going to go for a true divided light. It would be still simulated, but it would be muntins exposed on both sides. And then we would spec, I think, a fairly efficient window, so it'd likely be a 2-layer window.
Yeah, the Anderson 400 is a good window.
Super.
And the configuration that you have in the drawings in terms of 2/2, at least on the facade and so forth. That's what your plan. That what's depicted in the plan is what is going to be built. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. And I know we're picking on a couple of things here, but I want to tell you that I love it. It looks great, and the detail I think is pretty thorough. So I don't want you to think that we're just it's mostly good. These are sort of minimal
Not at
things.
all. And I appreciate the comment. Thank you.
Anybody else on the commission have any questions or thoughts?
I also like the look of the drawings, and everything looks correct. There was just a couple of issues with the orientation of the decking material, and speccing the windows, I think are important that we should know in order to make an informed decision on this.
Okay.
I have one question. Just looking at your existing home now, are you opening up what looks like your kind of sunroom front porch that's enclosed? That's going to be
Yeah.
open?
So
Okay.
it's the exact footprint and everything.
Yeah.
And
No,
scale
you're
up to the structure as we can.
It looks great.
I remember from when you guys appeared before us the last time, you had some significant structural issues, and I think some attempted kind of haphazard repairs that were made over the years. I think maybe even before you purchased the place.
No,
Are you gonna have to dig a new foundation, or how is that going to be rectified? Not something that's really important for this application, but just out of my own curiosity.
sure. The plan is to sort of leave the existing foundation in place and kind of re-support the house internally to the foundation with new posts and footings inside there. And I thought that the only solution was to replace the foundation, which would have been pretty crazy, considering the house. But this will be cost effective. And even, we won't even actually lose the basement as at least a storage space, if not something we could work on in the future if we need more living space.
Great. Hopefully that's a big cost savings too.
I'd say to the several thousands, so maybe $100,000 difference.
And the house itself, I don't know, by way of history of it, obviously it's been added on a bunch of times, and I think you indicated that there were additions even into the 1990s. What's the history of it in terms of age, if you've been able to date it?
It's the front is 1932, at least in the tax records. And I know that when we've had foundation people masons look at it, they say the block in the basement is 100 years. It's, of that period. So I'd say that's about right. And, we've kind of peeled back a couple layers here and there, and there's certainly indications that like the kitchen was at one point in the front of the house and it's now in the back of the house. You can see the holes in the floor where the plumbing was going through. But other than that, I don't know too much about, what it was like here 100 years ago.
Obviously it's in the historic district, but I would think that it's not an overly contributory house. Obviously it's not something that's turn of the century or significant. And what you guys are planning on doing is clearly an upgrade in terms of what is there. And I see that, clearly the spirit of a lot of the other houses is being incorporated. So I appreciate that, truly do.
Thank you.
With regard to the house, any other thoughts or comments? The main structure? No, from the commission.
Oh, okay.
I mean, unless you guys have anything else to add.
Well,
Don't tell us what you're really thinking.
No,
I think it looks great. I think you guys have taken, it's such a small, narrow lot, and it just looks like you have done a great job in designing it to maximize your space there. And I think it's a great looking, simple house, which goes right in the neighborhood. I really applaud you. I think it looks fantastic.
I second that.
agreed.
I agree.
And on the south side elevation, obviously it's a little bit less symmetrical and whatnot, but you're dealing probably with a pretty tight property alongside of you there. So you probably, that looks like a design that was probably incorporated some of the privacy issues that you'd be encountering as the house gets bigger and moves back.
And the light to get a little more light into the house, which is an issue currently.
Right. Why don't we'll deal with the shed separately. So I don't know if there's no other comments from the commission or nothing else that you guys want to bring, if there's any comments from the audience about the main structure, the house structure. Okay, it doesn't seem like anybody has any. Let's talk about the shed. Tell us about it.
Okay, so our proposed garden shed is 10 foot by 14 foot, total of 140 square feet of new wood garden shed. Now, the location of it, based on a couple of conditions, some to do with the existing trees. There's a couple of mature trees there. We're trying to avoid the root systems. But with regards to its location, we would likely seek some setback relief in the form of a variance for its location. I won't almost even trouble you with that for now, but suffice to say, it's a small wooden shed in a fairly typical garden shed shape, although we have given it a little bit of style, we'd like to think, with these glass French doors and transom window that can then sort of be covered up by a wood barn door and secured. And while, yeah, the shape and finish is all, fairly simple, it's a bit, it sort of has a little bit of a design aesthetic to it with this barn door and a bit of glass. We are proposing really a natural wood finish for the whole structure. And yeah, we're considering a hardwood, a cedar siding for that. And while really only a small portion of it would be visible from the street, again, we hope that you would look favorably on our proposed garden shed. I think it's, fairly traditional in its nature. If it could be perhaps made more traditional, if with some subtle changes here and there, but I don't want to shoot myself in the foot.
Yeah, and how much in terms of the visibility? I see where you have it depicted all the way in the rear of the property.
Yeah, depending on, so I just tried to drop some lines on the site plan. If you were to draw a perpendicular line from the street, it's about 2.5 feet of this garden shed would be visible. If you were head on perpendicular with the line, perpendicular with the front line of the property line. Now, as you sort of walk past it, obviously, more or less would be visible, but by no means is it a majority of the shed. And then actually, there's a heavy planted up divider on the property line. There's a heavy line of trees such that really when you get a couple of steps past the property line, you're not seeing into the backyard anyway. In any event, we would, we'd be very interested in a shed in that location.
Is if I'm understanding though, would it be if it's not in use, would both barn doors be closed so you would not see the glass doors and the transom?
Correct.
Exactly. That single barn door would slide over on a track and then cover just that one area of glass. And then when it's in its closed position, you would see only the wood siding and the door.
Mm-hmm. Are those glass doors visible in that, you said the 2.5 foot section that you noticed from the street? Is that because
they are oriented to the opposite side that would not be visible? And I think you would be hard pressed to see it from the street from any angle, given how planted up that property line is currently.
Commission, anybody have any thoughts on the shed?
I have a question.
if you shrunk the size of the shed, would you still need the variance?
Yes, but only because, I don't know if you're familiar with the zoning with accessory structures.
I am.
The thing that we sort of ran into was if you, I'm going to paraphrase, I think you can put the accessory structure within 5 feet of the rear setback
Mhm.
unless it's within 50 feet of a neighboring house.
And you would be.
And we are, because it's a 40-foot wide lot, so sort of inevitably we are. So then the shed would be, I think, 10 feet off the rear property line, which would be kind of in the middle of the yard. So it's sort of a, since we have to ask for the 5 feet, we just figured we'd ask for 3.5 feet, just to gain a little bit more yard space. It also, if you look at every other backyard on the entire street, there's a shed that's pretty hard up against the one property line or another. So it seems reasonable to ask, even for the trouble of going before the zoning board.
Have you spoken with your neighbors?
Yes. And they're fine with it.
Any opposition?
Nope.
Okay, thank you.
Anybody else from the commission?
I think the design is a little bit more contemporary, but it's not really that visible. And the shape of the door, makes it look more traditional. So, I'm happy with that.
Michelle?
Agreed. I like it, and I understand their issue being everybody in this neighborhood's non-conforming, so we all need to seek relief to gain storage and the needs of living in a modern world. So I think it looks great.
Thank you.
Yeah, my original thought, personally, my thought when I first saw it was that I loved the shed from a personal standpoint. I thought it was pretty cool, and I didn't even perceive that obviously the moving door, I thought that the glass was going to be permanently exposed. So I was thinking to myself that, it's probably a little bit more of a modern structure than, certainly something a little bit different. But I also am mindful of the fact that you guys are doing so much to improve the house and really making great effort to comply and really transform this lot into a, for lack of a better term, as sort of a simulated historic structure that, I didn't want to, I think that you deserve to be rewarded to some extent as a result of that. And I think that you kind of, the fact that it's minimally visible from the street and the fact that whatever elements or somewhat modern can be concealed by this door, which is kind of a cool design or an interesting design. I shouldn't use that description, but an interesting design that, kind of conceals the more modern elements of it. I think, through the testimony and through the explanation and close looking at the drawings, I think I'm okay with it for the same reasons that Joe mentioned as well. And it also, just in terms of color, and I'm looking at, obviously we don't dictate color, but is it going to be, do you have any ideas of,
We're thinking
natural wood finish in it? Go ahead.
Yeah, and it would be true like cedar that would weather, just because to the right of our house, there's a shed that's, weathered cedar. And then the next house over also has that big garage that's weathered cedar. So I think it would just kind of blend in.
Can I ask a question? Is your shed being designed for storage or for living space?
Storage, bicycles, lawnmower, stuff like that. I mean, I think the fantasy is that it's like a very nice workbench with with lots of natural light and to like fix something.
And it seems like you're going to a lot of trouble for storage. You're putting in glass doors and then you're putting in a sliding.
Yeah,
We actually have the doors, right?
truth be told, I have the doors. That's sort of was the motivation for the whole.
We repurposed them.
Yes, so that's it's already that's what it was designed around.
This space is not intended for any type of living space. It's purely storage.
You will never see it on Airbnb.
And it was
That's
not
not my
designed.
question. That's not my question.
No, but I mean to, yes, just absolutely say no one will be sleeping out there there won't be a toilet out there. It's not living space.
And it was designed specifically as storage space as well, just, to reiterate, yep.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Okay, open it up to the audience. Obviously, we did with regard to the main structure with some of the comments that were made, and now expanding that. Obviously, if there's any comments with regard to the main structure, but primarily the shed. Okay, it doesn't seem like there's any comments. With regard to the location of it, we take no position in terms of the need for a variance. Obviously, it's not, our jurisdiction to do so. And I think that obviously it makes more sense to have it sort of tucked in the corner, which, enhances the violation, if you will. But anything that can be done, to the extent that this is a little bit of a different element than the house, conceal it with landscaping, that sort of thing, make it less visible from the street would be probably preferable. But I don't think it rises to the level where it needs to be concealed or it shouldn't be seen. From the street.
Yeah, there is, I think for context, that is a holly tree that's right in front of it, which is pretty much the canopy almost goes to the ground. So that's,
And it's evergreen.
And then in front of that is a very old tulip tree's trunk, which again is, taking up the bulk of the sight lines anyway. I don't think the tulip tree is shown, but it is there, and we're not going to cut it.
And it's roughly 150 feet from the property line. Is that right?
Yeah.
The front of that, yeah. Okay, I'll make a motion that we approve the application as submitted with the provisions that hardwood decking configured from the house outward be utilized, as well as windows in a configuration presented in the plans, but in a simulated divided light configuration.
Mhm.
So those would
Second.
be. And actually, Stevie, before you take a vote, we have Steve Smith who's going to participate. I don't know, when you did a roll call, I forgot to sort of tell you about him. He's the second alternate. He's present. Since we have three people that aren't here, I think it's only fitting that he participate. So when you do the roll call, you can include him, Stephen Smith. Sorry about that, Steve.
No
Okay,
problem.
need a pen.
You're welcome.
So I
Okay.
made the motion. Joe seconded the motion. Can we have a
Right.
roll call?
Yes, Michelle Mandy.
And before we actually take the roll call, and that would include obviously not only the main structure, but the shed as depicted in the plans.
Okay, Michelle Mandia,
Yes.
Hillary Mullen,
Yes.
Art Pavlik,
Yes.
Joe Sluter,
Yes.
Stephen Smith,
Yes.
and Stevie Thompson, yes.
Okay, guys, congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you
Any
very much,
ideas
everyone.
of when construction starts? Oh, you got to get your variances first.
Well, they'll be separate. We're hoping for end of March, beginning of April, that we'd be getting started, which, we'll pretty much guarantee that we won't be seeing you guys again in a year with some other plan.
Good job, though. The place is going to look great. It's going to be a real addition to the neighborhood, and you guys, we applaud you for really, again, being specific with most of the elements and really, enhancing the historic district.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Super. Many thanks to
Yep.
the commission.
Yes, and very great job, I got to say. Especially kudos to Jonathan, because you were, so prompt and so efficient with getting the stuff, and the plans are excellent. The
Super.
detail is excellent. We get a lot of applications, some from professionals, and you'd be surprised at the lack of detail. I mean, maybe that's intentional. I can't say that, but the whole experience dealing with your office has been excellent.
I appreciate that very much, Mr. Public.
Yeah,
Thank you
look
very
forward
much.
to working with you
I
again.
look forward to working with you again.
Great.
Super.
Thanks, guys.
Nice job, Nate and Sarah.
Congrats and have a good one.
Thank you.
Congratulations, guys.
Thank
Right.
you.
Good night.
Bye.
So the next application that we have, and I actually have it, and I apologize to Mr. Cacavo, is 763 River Road, Block 49, Lot 6. And I'm sorry also that the materials didn't get to the rest of the commission until late, but it is listed on the agenda as installation of artificial turf product. That's inaccurate. To specifically quote what's contained in the application, what's being sought is, quote, complete front brick patio, removing artificial grass as requested by Historic Preservation Commission. And we've had a discussion about these issues on a number of occasions in the last year that this has been pending. And now I think as a result of some movement by the town that there is a application being made to remove the artificial turf. And I guess, although it's not specific, replace it or have some type of brick or brick-like configuration. So Mr. Cacavo will hear you and hear what you have to say about it.
Do you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, good. Yeah, if it said to put in artificial grass, that is incorrect. We would propose replacing it with the brick paver that's already there for the walkway and the top of the patio. And the area that would be filled in on both sides of the walkway is between 7.5 feet and 8 feet wide by 17 feet long. And it would unify the look of the front patio and walkway. It would all blend into one. It would be the same brick and the same lot number that is down there currently. So it will not appear different other than whatever weathering has happened to it, since the stuff's been down.
Is it a paver product that you have? Is the brick a paver product or is it actual brick? Having seen it, it's a simulated brick and it looks pretty close to the real thing.
It is, well, other than being told it's a brick paver, I'd call it a brick.
Okay.
It looks like a Pilgrim brick paver to me. Would that be, do you know what it is? Is that what it is?
I bought it from Risers. I did have it, actually, the first time we were in, I had a sample of it in front of you guys. But they call it's a brick paver. I don't know if it's a Pilgrim brick paver, but
Yeah, I believe that that's the style. I'm not 100% sure because I'm not looking at it right now, but I
Okay.
kind of remember that. Yeah. It's a nice
But
brick.
Yeah.
And we clearly approved it for the walkway. So are you going to have to excavate? I don't know what's underneath the turf now. Is that cement? Is that concrete still there that's depicted in the
No,
one photo that you supplied?
no, the concrete was fully removed, Art. What's under the grass is the same material that's under the brick that you'd see. So whether or not it's got to be reduced, the amount of it's got to be reduced I couldn't tell you. I believe it was all finished at one level and the grass simply fills in the void that would otherwise be filled by brick.
Are you, is there an impervious lot coverage issue that the town is challenging you on if you decide to move to a complete brick configuration?
No, the impervious surface is actually being reduced by, I don't know, 30 or 40 square feet by, from what it was when I purchased the property.
Okay. So just so there's no question about what we're talking about here, you're proposing on basically just continuing the brick throughout the entire area, the exact same brick that we approved for the walkway in the center of the front of the building, throughout the entire portion that is currently covered by the artificial turf product.
Correct.
So the entire front is going to be brick, identical to that which is existing in the walkway.
I was even able to buy the same lot number through risers that that was a lot for what is already down.
All right, so I take it that that's a yes, that it's going to be identical to the walkway brick.
Yes,
Okay. And
Can I
again,
ask
it's
a
going to be,
question?
yes.
Just wondering whether you're going to use the same pattern in those two rectangles, or you're going to do a different pattern to delineate the walkway up in the middle. Like you're going to do a herringbone or something different, or is it just going to be the same pattern as what's on the walkway?
planning on running the same pattern.
Anybody else from the commission?
So it's going to look just like one continuous patio at that point.
Correct.
Did you give any thought? I mean, that's a good point that's brought up. Did you give any thought to maybe changing the configuration so it looks like there's a center walkway? Or if that's not a concern, that's not a concern, but that's a good point that Hillary brought up.
Briefly thought about it and ruled it out probably about just as quickly.
Okay. Any thoughts on the from the commission?
I have a thought. I think it's looking at the photograph that was sent of the current, what's there now, and looking at what it's next to, Flare Cleaners, which is all, you know, stone on one side, and he's going to put all brick there. I don't love it, but I understand that why he's doing it, since we've, you know, he doesn't want to put real grass in, but I'm not loving that look.
I would agree, especially if it's not, if the pattern isn't changed. I was thinking if you could do some kind of pattern in those, then it would give it a little bit of a more interesting look.
It would make it more interesting, and, you know, you could put, you know, all sorts of, you know, containers out there, and, you know, whoever is renting the space, like Flares does, may feel that it would break it up, certainly. But it looks so industrial.
Mm-hmm.
Really, it's a it's a period correct product. So
I'm just wondering why you can't put real grass there.
it's extremely difficult and expensive to get water to the grass to take care of, to make sure it stays wet and doesn't look all candidly like the rest of the street. The only guy who's got a decent lawn is Ike at Blue Stove.
You know, I think that you know, we've kind of gotten this in a long roundabout way, but, you know, looking at the first photo that has been provided, which was the photo of what was there when I think the informal first came around, which was, you know, sort of indoor outdoor carpeting and this kind of slate or bluestony in a bed of cement on either side. You know, that was there. And had the applicant come before us and said, look, I want to brick the entire thing, it's, you know, it's a historic look, we wouldn't have thought twice about it. It's just now that we've seen this, and, you know, I guess I can certainly understand the concern, and I certainly can understand sort of options that seem pretty vivid to those who've brought it up, and it makes perfect sense to me, but I'm just looking at it, you know, clearly we disfavored and disallowed the turf. And I'm just thinking that compared to what was there, this is a huge improvement. I share everybody else's thoughts on it, but I just think it's something that, you know, we approved the brick for the walkway. I don't know how that you could just say that it's not historically correct for the rest of the field in the front of the house, in the front of the structure.
Yeah, my opinion was that the brick made it feel more like a historic property. You know, same with everything else I did to the building. the round gutter at the front, change that, somebody called it church stone to the cedar shake simulated siding, and trimmed out the whole front of the building. Those are all things to make it aesthetically more pleasing and aesthetically more matching the historic district.
Just if I may, Frank, why was it that you dismissed the idea of a different pattern to kind of, because it seems like it would be relatively easy, not a ton more expensive, if at all, maybe just a little bit of trim work. But the visual would be so much better and would still be historic. It's not like you would lose that.
Because I didn't want to come, well, two things. I didn't want to come forward and say that it would be a specific pattern if I didn't end up liking that pattern. And just, kind of to simplify things, I just said, you know what, I'll continue the same pattern.
I mean, it's your application, clearly. I mean, if there's no reason, that's fine as well. I was just curious. Any other thoughts from the commission?
I just think that if you would think about doing a herringbone pattern with maybe 2 courses of a border around it, it would be really handsome looking. It would delineate that walkway up front. I just think it would give it so much more, if it's a lot, if it's, cost prohibitive, that's one thing. But in my view, I think it would be it would make it look really handsome. It would really bring that to a nice level.
Anybody getting that sound?
Yeah, I don't know
Yeah.
what that is.
Me
Stop.
neither, right here, it's like a buzzing.
Yeah. I mean, I totally agree with Hillary, and I would think that it would probably make it more attractive for rents, and it would probably enhance the value of the property as well.
Well, it's it's already rented, and I've put an awful lot of money into that building. I would say that right now I've got more invested in it than it's worth.
But again, if it doesn't really cost anything more and it improves the look instead of just the straight run of brick, my thought is, why wouldn't you?
I'm replacing the artificial grass at your request.
Yeah.
The Historic Preservation Commission's request.
Yep.
If I'll tell you what, I will ask my bricklayer if it costs any more,
Okay.
and if it does, I won't do it. And if it doesn't, you'll see herringbone.
That would be awesome. Thank you. I'd love
You're
that.
welcome.
I'll come hang out up there. Thank you. That would be great.
You're welcome.
I don't know how we fashion that in terms of any type of a motion.
If I could just weigh in on that a little bit, from my experience, the labor cost for doing the herringbone is definitely more than just running that running bond that he has. There's a lot more cuts.
Yeah.
I don't know what his contractor is going to say, but I would assume that it's going to be more costly.
Well, that's not part of the application, and it's not part, so I don't know that we can make it a requirement because we don't have that in front of us.
Right, because he's saying one way or the other, depending on cost. I personally don't have a problem with just putting the brick. I think the brick looks a lot better than the fake turf, and the brick looks a lot better than the original condition of the front of that building when he first purchased it.
Yeah, thank you, Joe. I feel the same way.
I would love to see the herringbone, but you know, that's not what's being proposed, so I don't know how we can vote on that.
Well,
Frank,
it's
just
up to you guys. If you want to take my word that I'll ask and get that answer and do what, do what I've accordingly said, that's fine. And if you don't, then let's just go with the running bond.
Frank, I was just out of curiosity, what kind of business is leasing the space now?
A law office.
Office. Yeah, so presumably there won't be any like tables and chairs set up outside or anything like that.
No, I specifically don't want that.
Right. Okay.
The only thing I could think of in terms of in the memorandum of action is including some type of a proviso that if a herringbone although not proposed, the commission would be it would be acceptable to the commission to allow the applicant to utilize a herringbone or similar type pattern to differentiate the walkway from the rest of the front portion of the structure or the front portion of the building. I don't know whether anybody has any thoughts on something like that. So obviously it would give you, and the only reason I'm thinking about that, Frank, is if you're standing there with your contractor and saying to yourself, you know something, that would probably be, it's not that much more and it's going to completely enhance the value and make it, not necessarily for the law firm, but anybody else you want to rent it to or the next tenants after that or after that. It just makes it that much better of an easier rentable type place. And it's something that's the first thing that anybody would see when you look at that property. It might be something you might want to seriously consider. So my thought would be to give you the flexibility to do that. And I don't know whether anybody else from the commission has any thoughts on that.
Yeah.
I appreciate that, Art, because what I've tended to do for most of my life is pick the upgrade. It's just, it's been my nature, and it's both made and cost me money.
Joe, can I ask you a question?
Yes.
Would a basket weave be less cuts? I'm just trying to think of a different pattern.
A basket weave, and I think with those being a modular brick, if they're the brick that I'm talking about, there's always a little space because they're not perfectly 8x4. So you always have a little space between them when you do a basket weave with that type of brick.
Mm-hmm.
So I
wouldn't you
can't
fill
answer
that
that.
in with some? Wouldn't you fill that in with some kind of?
Well, you'd fill it in with whatever sand or stone dust, but it would still show a little square because the two wide is not the same as one long.
Oh, okay. I see what
So
you're saying.
that's the issue with that.
I see. Yeah. Okay.
I think that, obviously as you get into the intricacy of angled cuts and filling in the space, you have wasted material, and obviously it takes a lot longer to make it fit tight and perfect as opposed to like a horizontal design.
Right.
So,
You know,
all right, so I've got,
Or can I just say one thing?
yes,
Even
sorry,
just simple with no cuts. I mean, if he just put a 2 brick border outlining the space and then
True.
the straight run, you'd at least have some delineation.
Yeah.
Do you know
That's
what
a
I mean?
good idea.
You'd
Like
at
a
least
2-course border.
Exactly.
Yeah.
On each side. And
That
no
may
cuts.
help him. That may help him because he's probably got cut bricks on either side. So
Yeah.
then he wouldn't have to pull those out
Right.
and to tie it all in. So that could be an option.
I think that's a good idea.
all right, any other types of configurations other than the basket weave, herringbone, or multiple course border that you guys can envision?
Thanks.
We'll be quiet now.
That's it. That's it,
No,
including
but I
but
think
not
Stevie's,
limited
I
to.
think Stevie's idea was really good.
Okay.
All right.
Any thoughts? Anyone want to make a motion? What's the thought?
I'll make a motion the way you described it, Art.
Okay, let me
To approve.
just, I'm sorry, I forgot to ask the audience too. And so at this point, I'll open it up to the audience as to whether anybody has thoughts, comments, suggestions, or anything else concerning this application. Having heard nothing, I assume that the audience has no thoughts, comments. Yeah, I mean, I'll just make the motion, Joe. I'll make the motion to approve the application as requested. However, I will include in the body of our memorandum of action, allowing the applicant flexibility to utilize different configurations, including but not limited to basket weave, herringbone, or multiple course borders, so as to differentiate the center walkway from the rest of the field of the surface. Something along those lines. And, obviously, Frank, I'm doing it that way, or I'm suggesting it that way to give you flexibility. You're under no obligation, clearly. But I don't want to have what I would like to avoid is, again, this only helps you, because if we're even without any of these comments, if you just decided to do it when you're doing the work, and it's not as represented to us, that might get you into problems as well, because I don't know how on top of you the town is after all this time, but I could envision a scenario where he then says, well, this isn't what you presented to the Preservation Commission. And without us having discussed it, it technically is not, but I want to include it in that so that you can, without question, and so there's no confusion like there may have been the last time, give that, show them the memorandum of action and indicate that we did give you the flexibility with regard to that configuration, but only so far as to differentiate the walkway.
Right, I understand and I appreciate that.
And I don't know whether you have any position on that, or, whether you're good with that, but that's how I'd propose it.
Okay. I second.
I think you're thirding because Joe seconded.
Oh, sorry, Joe.
Can we get a roll?
I think I proposed and then Art reproposed, so I
Only
think you get
because
the
I had it
second.
written down, and you weren't mentioning basket.
We'll give
weave.
Hillary the second.
All right, settle down there. Here we go. Michelle Mandia,
Yes.
Hillary Mullen,
Yes.
Art Pavlik,
Yes.
Joe Sluter,
Yes.
Stephen Smith,
Yes.
and Stevie Thompson, yes.
All right, Joe. Or Frank, I'm sorry.
You're good.
Congratulations.
Thanks,
I'll,
Frank.
I was just
Thank
gonna
you,
say, who's
Frank.
Joe?
I'm sorry. I was looking at
No,
Joe's
that's okay.
post.
Thank you very much.
Well,
And,
Thank
I
you.
know you want to see us again sometime soon, but
Well, I've got a tenant going in across the street at 756.
I saw that. Congrats. That's great.
Thank you. Yeah, they're, if they haven't filed to get in front of you with their sign yet, they should be, imminently.
All right. We'll treat them right.
Good, thank you.
All right. Very good. Thank you, Frank.
All
Congratulations.
right, guys. Have a great night. Everybody stay healthy.
You
You
too.
too.
Thank you, too.
Thank you.
All right. Any other thoughts or comments about any of this stuff?
it'd be nice to see that grass gone.
Well, I'm not holding my breath yet, but we'll see how it goes. I don't know. What do you think? What do you think? Is it going to be straight brick, or is it going to be some configuration?
Probably straight.
Yeah.
They might do the border. I thought that was a good idea.
Yeah, that probably is going to be the way. That's probably the easiest, and it just makes sense, right? Otherwise,
if
it's a weird
Sorry.
mass.
If you just put 4 Adirondack chairs out there, or the woman who has the law office, like it would look so nice.
Yes.
Yeah.
Exactly. A couple of pots, big old clay pots.
Like a
filled-
benches, you're like done.
Yeah, it would.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's talk about this Bicentennial Hall. I know I sent you some stuff. I was away last week, so it was probably 2 weeks ago. As you guys know, and we've talked about in the past, I think at length at the last meeting, is that the town wants to utilize Bicentennial Hall. There was communication back and forth with the mayor, and we indicated that, in fact, we're pretty much in favor universally with enhancing the use and making better use of it, and along the way, making it a more efficient or structurally sound or usable structure so that the town can get the benefit out of it. But we want to, clearly be part of all of that and not have decisions made without us. And that actually is being the first step in that stage is tomorrow, because there's the meeting. And again, I believe it's 4:00. It went out in the email. I think
Actually, it's 5:30, Art.
Oh, 5:30 now? Okay. I know Jay Anderson's going to try to attend. I don't know whether any of you guys can attend. I cannot. I have something that I cannot move. But I would love the more the merrier, and then you.
Well,
report
actually,
back.
we can't have, excuse me, we can't have the more the merrier. We can't have a quorum because it's not an advertised meeting. We violate the Open Public Meetings Act if the commission met in a quorum to discuss business. So you can have up to 4 people there, but no more.
Well, for
I
the most part,
can't
really,
make it. I may
officials
show up
are gonna be
late.
Observing, are they not?
I'm
I don't know
sorry?
if they're going to be observing. They're not going to be participating in the meeting
No,
necessarily.
I
It's
think
really-
they actually wanted to have a discussion. That's the point of inviting now you have to remember the facilities committee is just a committee. There is no quorum of the governing body on there or any other. There's only 3 members of the governing body. It's the mayor, Councilman Rodriguez, and Councilman McHugh. I'm not so sure if all 3 of them will be there, but the intent was to just sit with a few members of the historic commission and just talk about ideas and thoughts, whether or not they should engage an architect or not. We sent you the original plans only because they had used that architect in the past. The 2 big hurdles there for making that a meeting space that would be able to accommodate public meetings like a governing body meeting or a historic commission meeting or a planning board meeting. We need to put some parking in on the actual lot itself because we need to have handicap parking that's off street. There's some thoughts about whether or not the current handicap ramp is compliant. And once we touch the building, we have to look at what was done there. And then there's only 1 bathroom. And when you have a public meeting that might have, let's just say 20-some, 30-some people there, 1 bathroom could be problematic. So, I know Pat Drummond had called me. She was very concerned, about not messing with the historic nature of the building. And I think we've got some pretty, talented people here. I can tell your group is very talented when it comes to your vision. And I think there's some talented people on the facilities committee. So we just want to start this off to just be a brainstorming idea of what's our best course of action to meet those goals.
Okay, so then how many people do you think that you can accommodate from our commission?
Well, you can't, 4 would be less than a quorum. You have a 9-member board, so any 4 people that want to come, you certainly could designate them and
Okay.
they can attend.
So we have Jay Anderson, obviously, and Pat, I believe, are going to be appearing. Can we get 2 more?
I can go if no one else can go. What time is it tomorrow? 5?
5:30,
And where are we meeting?
Bicentennial Hall over
Okay.
on Cedar.
Yep. So can I ask a question just because I think I missed the last meeting if we discussed this. I should know this because I lived here my entire life, but on Bingham in Rumson, that's Bingham Hall, right?
Mhm.
Is that kind of the idea? I think there's only 1 bathroom in there. And I think, that's been such an added bonus space to the entire community.
But that might very well be true, although I don't think Rumson holds, regular, meetings like governing body and planning board. They have a different space for that.
True.
And
I think they rent it out though, like, the Boy Scout. I mean, I've gone to numerous things there and I think it's a great space.
And that very well may be I'm not an expert in building code. Maybe 1 bathroom in a facility like that up to so many people is acceptable. But it's just something that would stick out. I've been in public meetings when there was a break and 3 or 4 people were trying to run to the bathroom real quick, and so that just came to mind as being something that might have to be looked at.
Joe, is there any possibility you can make it just because with your expertise?
I have a 4:30 appointment in Middletown. I can try and get there afterwards. I don't know how long it's going to take, but it should probably take about an hour. So I might be able to make it, but if I do it, I'll be late.
Okay, anybody else?
I was exposed to the virus on Saturday, got tested today, so I haven't left the house since. So I'm not going to go.
All
You
right.
look healthy. I'm confident. in you.
I feel good. We'll see.
I'm actually in the same exact, but my exposure was on Thursday. It was apparently very low risk, but I got tested on, I guess, yesterday morning. So I'm still waiting for that result. So I'm kind of I think just probably better safe than sorry, and not
Right.
not leaving the house.
Yeah, I'll be working, so.
All right. So then, Joe, if you can make it, great. Michelle, you're going to go, and we have Jay and Pat there.
And
Yeah,
Art, if need be, the original thought was that the facilities committee would send someone to your meeting, and talk to you there. But they got the idea at our last meeting that it might make sense to meet on site, just so we could look at the building and walk around and talk.
Great
But it
idea.
doesn't mean that it's the final discussion, that they can't come back before the commission, with further plans or ideas.
Well, I
Mhm.
suspect that probably there'll be some unresolved issues and questions as a result of tomorrow's meeting, and maybe they can reciprocate by if there's answers to those questions, they can reciprocate by coming to our next meeting. That might be an answer. Okay.
And it might even be a future meeting. I'm not so sure how quickly they will turn this around. The biggest decision is whether or not they're going to engage an architect or not.
I would think that you would need to, probably
Probably.
depending on the extent of what
They
they're
only
looking
have
to-
$350,000 earmarked in the bond ordinance for upgrades to Bicentennial Hall. So that's depending on the scope of work, that they may have to rethink that.
Right. Yeah, that's not going to go very far.
No.
Parking lot probably costs $100,000.
Yeah. Expensive.
Probably somewhere in that range.
Okay.
Well, I hope they'll be able to, at some point come to a conclusion, because I think that, and like Michelle said, having a community gathering place for meetings or whatever, it's there, and it would be great if it could be utilized. I really feel very strongly about that.
And so does facilities committee. I think everyone's on the same page there. Is just trying to find the right setup.
And sometimes you have to, I know you have to keep the historic aspects of it, but sometimes you have to hold back on some things in order to make a structure livable, so to speak, or usable. And you can't always be right on target with what the historic portion of that is. So if you know what I'm
And
saying.
correct me if I'm wrong, but and for Michelle, if you weren't, I forgot that you weren't here for the discussion last week, is the town's going through this transition. What they're looking for, looking to redo the police department, looking to redo the community center, and maybe in a situation where they need space to hold general meetings and so forth. So a lot of this is meant because of the enhancement in use that the town may have, even though it may be on a short term, depending on what the long-term fix is going to be. And then maybe it may just result in something of a use similar to what Bingham Hall is. My thought on it was that the town is not going to sanction
Hey, what's up?
enhanced use of the structure without doing things the right way. And that's only going to benefit the long-term sustainability of the building.
Mhm.
So, but we'll see.
So just loop me in real quick, or I can call you later. So they're trying to just refurbish the police, like the current.
Well, those things are happening. And so the plan is to put in a parking lot to the right of it, which would be on the south side, to increase handicapped access, and then do some things on the inside as was just mentioned before, perhaps with the bathroom, just make it more usable.
Mhm.
And even different things, like we still have the original pews downstairs, and if you're gonna make it a meeting space, do you install the pews again and let people sit on those, or do you put chairs up and down, or, there's certain pieces of it that, if they're gonna think about it, they gotta give it some, some good thought and get input from, certainly your commission.
Right. Okay, terrific. But do you have any idea as to the time frame on it? I mean, they're looking to, you said, to engage the architect, which I think is going to have to happen.
It
Um,
is, the biggest consideration is obviously once we start work on the police department, and mind you, in my world, there's a lot that goes into before we actually, get a shovel in the ground. We have to, finalize we're just approving the architect's proposal at our next meeting, our Feb 10 meeting. He's got to do the design plans. It's got to come back to the facilities committee. It's got to go to the public, and then ultimately to the governing body. And then they've got to go out, authorize the bid, take the bids, award the bids, so, that'll take a little while. But in the meantime, that's why they're trying to get ahead of the Bicentennial Hall piece, because we do think that once we start construction, the police department's going to stay in its current location. The building's going to go next to it, and then ultimately they're going to knock the current police department / community center down. But once they actually start working on that site, we don't think it's practical that you'll be able to use the community center. And we do use that for various, soft recreation and active recreation, uses now for the borough. So we have to look at alternatives. We're talking to the school on the active recreation substitute, and we're looking for Bicentennial Hall to free us up for some of the, the less intense uses.
But Teresa, we still have to borrow the money to renovate Bicentennial Hall. That was part of the latest approval of the bond ordinance.
Right. Well, right now we don't have a
We don't
cash flow.
have the money to do it. We're going to have to borrow the money to do it.
We authorize the expenditure, Betsy, and at this stage of the game, we don't have a cash flow issue. We won't have to go out and borrow the money tomorrow. The CFO has money that's previously been approved and can use that money towards facilities improvements without going out for debt immediately.
But why was it then included in the bond ordinance?
Because the bond ordinance is an authorization for future debt, but it's only issued as we need it.
Okay.
All right. Well, we'll have representation there tomorrow, which is good, a step in the right direction. And, we're mindful, obviously, of the fact that, there is a time frame associated with this. For something as important as this, this would be a cause that we'd be more than willing of having. We've had special meetings in the past. We've met more than on one occasion in the past per month. We probably have more flexibility with the Zoom platform. So if decisions have to be made or if things have to happen, I'm sure I could speak for the rest of the commission that we'd be more than willing to make ourselves available to make this work the right way.
And I appreciate that. And I'm sure the committee and the governing body appreciates that.
Okay, great.
Thank you.
All right. With that, I'll make a motion to close.
Second?
All right. I'm sure everybody's unanimous on that one.
Yeah.
So.
Yep.
Good night, everyone. Enjoy
Night.
your evening.
Right, right. Thank you, Art.
Good night.
Nice to meet everybody.
Nice to
Thank
meet
you, Art. Nice to meet you.
Thanks.
Have a good one.